Hi, I'm James Schillinglaw, and I'm here with Fahad Hamamadin of the Saudi Tourism Authority, the CEO, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's going on in Saudi today and why you're going to see a lot more promotion from them to come. And this is Insider Travel Report. Fahad, first of all, welcome. We're in Las Vegas at the Virtuoso Travel Week conference. It's been a great conference so far, and you just had a big promotion at the general session and really showed everybody what Saudi is today. And I wanted to start off. We've been seeing a lot of Saudi at travel industry events all over the place, right?
Right. Well, thank you, James, for having me with you. And yes, there is a lot to the Saudi story that should be told in every venue, and especially in events as prime and critical like the Virtuoso and the travel leaders.
Yeah, well, those two, you're probably going to be doing more, and you have incredible video and incredible marketing materials. And when I first saw them, and I've seen a bit over the past few years, I was always blown away by what you had to offer. But let's talk a little bit about, why are you trying to ramp up tourism so quickly? It seems like, you're on a race here.
Thank you for the very good question. Truly, I don't think I have been asked this question. Why? I think we believe in the power of tourism like probably no other country that I have interacted with. If you think of the G20 countries, how many of the G20 have ministries of tourism and ministers of tourism, starting with the US? When we hosted the G20, we actually basically worked with the WTTC in hosting the first T20, Tourism 20. And we wanted to make sure...
I heard about that one, yeah.
Yeah, and we wanted the heads of state to actually realize how important the tourism sector is. And it goes way beyond airlines and hospitality and hotels. So it is the consumption economy. It is the culture of a nation. It is the pride of a nation. And it is the provider of new jobs like no other sector.
Absolutely, and that's what I think a lot of people recognize that one of the things that what WTTC is built for is make everybody realize about the power of travel and tourism, right?
And I have to say, we're learning a lot from our partners, WTTC for one, and we're trying to learn from all the others on the good and the bad, some to follow and some to prevent, in order to make sure that we do it right.
No, absolutely. Now, what is, how big a tourism destination do you want Saudi to be, and what's the ultimate objective?
I think on impact, we want it to be very big. On numbers, I would say we want to take it to 100 million visits by 2030. But I think the impact goes way beyond just the economic impact. If you develop the right exemplary, developments, on sustainability, on reserves, on conservation, on rewilding, on community engagement, dissemination of wealth to villages. Those are the kind of impact territories that we can export beyond just visits and economic numbers.
And it is important, and to people understand the Saudi culture and history and everything else is incredible. I mean, you have a few neighbors to the, I guess it's to the northwest, who have been busy, creating tourism destinations out of nothing, and they're very small, but they've been pretty successful in creating that. And it sounds like you guys, Saudi would just be incredible in the future, right?
I very much believe so, and you're right. There are many countries in the region that have been promoting what they have, and the Arabian civilization has always been, rich with very diverse culture, generosity, hospitality. I mean, Saudi is now opening up, and it is the largest land of Arabia. It is basically the depository of the greatest assets that goes to 7,000.
I believe you are the wealthiest there.
No, but I meant wealth of
culture.
Exactly, and assets that go back 7,000 in years. And a lot of people don't know what Saudi is. They assume that it's desert, and it's at this time, my brother is in the south of Saudi, and it's 12 degrees Celsius, and it's raining, and the Green Mountains. So
when I saw your videos, I said, wait a minute, there's green there. And I said, I didn't know that. And I mean, I'm pretty ignorant, I guess, but I have to see that, because I didn't believe that it was there green and places where it gets cold and things like that. So it's very different kind of territory than we think it is.
Maybe at first you're not ignorant, but it is the reason why I'm here in Virtuoso. It's because this Saudi story must be told the way it is, by the people.
We hear a lot of talk that you're going to spend something crazy like $1 trillion by 2030 to develop this tourism and infrastructure. You're going to have new hotels, transportation, modern cities, cultural attractions. I've actually interviewed a few people like Jerry Inzarella of the Deer Gate, and I interviewed him during COVID, actually. And I know Jerry because I knew him from previous developments. So, and then I heard you're up to like 30. He's up to about 38 or 39 hotels, and it's kind of beyond belief, right?
Well, if you think of the wealth that you talked about, Saudi has, I think we're just putting that wealth into transformative sectors, and tourism sits at the top of that list of sectors. We've been heavily dependent on oil, and we know that's not sustainable. We need jobs for our growing.
You have a lot of younger people in Saudi Arabia,
and you know this very well, James. Out of one of every 5 new jobs is provided by tourism. In 2025, if I quote WTTC, they say 1 of every 4 new jobs will come from tourism, and most critically, our challenge today is unemployment. And if you look at tourism, it provides jobs to the most difficult segment of unemployment, which is the low-skilled.
No, absolutely, and so you're going to get that with this. Now, one of the things we hear, it feels almost like yesterday that Saudi was almost a place off limits, that perhaps for not business travelers, but for leisure, you had to get a visa. There were a lot of cultural things that we were not used to. But in the last 3 years, there have been tremendous changes to Saudi society, and I had friends, as I told you, who were over there 3 years ago. When you said you don't need a visa, or it's an easier visa to get, so a lot of things changed. Of course, then we had COVID, so you lost that kind of momentum, and now we're back here. And so, how did it change to being such a more, at least perception-wise, more welcoming place?
I think. It's not more welcoming. It was always welcoming. It was a political decision, and now that decision has been made. We're going to open for tourism, and it's one of many opportunities that are provided for the Saudi people. after the new, with the new leadership.
Yeah, and I had friends who went over, as I said, a few years ago before COVID, and they raved about it, and they came back and they said, Saudi Arabia? Okay. Okay, and then now we had COVID, and now we're back, and now you're here, and you're promoting it like it's amazing, the promotions. Now, let's talk about how do you change perceptions of Saudi in the market and change them to make people realize you are a welcoming tourism destination. I mean, sometimes that seems to be a really big job based on all the misperceptions out here, especially among Americans. And I'm sure you've heard this comment, and they say, I'm not sure I want to go to Saudi. I don't know about it. But and we're talking here, even some travel advisors who are a little, they're a little, timid about going over there. But what do you say to them?
I say they're right to choose to go whenever they're comfortable. I think they're not to blame. I think it's on us. The Saudi narrative has not been provided by the Saudis, and Prime Media, that's been carrying the world news, is only interested in tensions and wars and
right. We have this all the time with destinations. They don't know anything about them, and so here you are trying to explain this country again.
Exactly, and I think the Saudi brand is built by its people, whether the people coming and telling the story themselves or the travelers going and meeting the Saudi people and then carrying it to their friends and families. And I like to say that we're making headways. In the last quarter, we received more than 80,000 travelers from the US. We have 3 direct flights on Saudi Airlines from Chicago, from LA, from Washington, and New York. And it's just the beginning. So it's working.
It's odd because, I grew up in my college days were long ago, but I had Saudi friends who were in college. I knew them. I felt very comfortable with them, and they said, come to Saudi. And then, of course, I don't know, in the last few years, that all kind of changed again, and now we have to get that back, I think, right?
Totally. And I mean, as you said, a visa is now easier than ever. You can get it online in 10 minutes, or you can even get your visa upon arrival. And after Joe Biden's visit, now if you get a visa, it is a 10-year visa, so it's not a 1 year.
If I come in November, I can come back, right?
Of course, but exceptionally American. If you get a visa, because all other nationalities is like 1 year, some are 5 years, but exceptionally the American visa is now 10 years. If you get it once, you get it for 10 years.
Well, there has been incredible partnership between Saudi and the U.S. for so long, but that's why I was. But there was a point where you were not exactly welcoming to visitors a few years ago, and now all of a sudden you are.
Forever, we never opened for tourism. We just opened in 2019, and then 5 months later, the borders closed because of COVID. So I think it is interesting, and I think particularly because it's been closed for all these years. So now there are no many destinations, let alone at the scale of Saudi, that are new and just opening up to the world.
And people are always looking for new destinations. That's the absolute thing. And so here you are, and you got a lot of offer. And I can understand your haste to get back because you have been closed for a while, and now you're open. And now, as you said, you're going to keep promoting it. Let's talk a little bit about what sort of travelers you are really focused on today in terms to convince them that Saudi really is an incredible place to visit, and why. What are the kind of travelers you think would be interested in Saudi?
I think the discoverers, culturally curious, the adventurous, and luxury travel. Those that travel for events. I think we have the largest event and the richest event calendar.
So you mentioned on Nusayed you have the F1, which I'm a big Formula One fan, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's one event.
That's just one event.
That's one event of 16,000 events that the calendar has for this year. So, who would guess that we have the largest electronic music festival in the world?
You mentioned that, and I'm like, oh my God, really? Yeah. But it's Middle Eastern electronic, though. Different? No, it is not. It's everything.
It's everything. It's electronic music. It's it's called Middle East. In its first issue, in 2019, it actually hosted just less than 400,000, and in last year, it hosted 600,000.
You maybe the other big place for that electronic music is right here in Vegas, and I think you beat out them. I got to tell you.
In numbers, we did. So, but that again, it just gives you an example of, again, there are thousands and thousands of events, and the Red Sea is what I believe is going to be the destination for all sort of marine travel, from diving to cruising to yachting. I think the Red Sea is a true global gem with its coral reefs, its preserved marine life. And I think that would be a whole new destination that would become the Blue Saudi.
It should be. I mean, you got to see. Everybody knows about the desert, but all those green places I want to see now. That you have as well. So that's now. Talk a little bit about what importance is the U.S. market, the American market, to Saudi.
I think naturally the American travelers are amongst the most culturally curious. I think those travelers also are very rewarding for sustainable destinations, and then the American media, the world looks at the world through the American lens. So
we're sorry for that.
No, but I have to say, I for one have learned to appreciate the American system, American values in many ways, and that's
a lot of Saudis have come over here and been educated here, so they know about it, and
we're very proud to say that we've learned from all parts of the world, and U.S. in specific is included. So, but we learn to appreciate that by education. And my call to the rest of the world travelers is, be open, and you'll be surprised. Again, like most, if not all, of the travelers that have been to Saudi, the impact has been phenomenally positive.
Well, that's all I hear when people coming back. They say they had an incredible time, and the people in travel and tourism who've been exploring it now. Now, talk a little. You mentioned it in your talk at Virtuoso about what are kind of the specific tourism sites, attractions, some of the things that people really have to go see in Saudi.
So Riyadh and Diriyah Gate, I think, is a must visit. That's the birthplace of the monarch, and it's expected to be the largest mud city in the world. It is what we call the Earth City. Then you have Jeddah, which has been the melting pot, cultural melting pot for all travelers that used to go to Mecca and Medina. And for the first time now, we opened Medina, the holy city of Medina, for all people.
That's amazing, because that was closed, really, except for Muslims, right?
Very true, very true. And then you have Jeddah. Then you have Al Ula, which is
I just learned about it a few years ago, and it looks amazing. It looks like, well, somebody explained it's like Petra, but even bigger.
On steroid.
That's right.
Yes. And I like to claim that it's very well preserved, very, very well preserved. You go to Al Ula, you don't see any visual noise. I mean, nothing commercial polluting that serenity of and the power and the charm of that.
You showed incredible art installations that are all in that valley too. It was kind of interesting.
But I think those are complementary. Those are,
absolutely. I don't think it ruins it.
Exactly. Those are artistic brushes that actually accentuate the charm of that place.
Yeah, so those are some of the places to go see, right?
Correct. And then you have Asir. Asir is the south mountains. It's the Arabian Highlands in the south of Saudi. And it is the home of 5,000 villages, one of which is called Rijal Al-Ma. That's been rated the best tourism village by the UNWTO. Yeah. And it is a UNESCO heritage site as well.
I think you have a number of UNESCO heritage sites, right?
That is true. And then we have the new developments. So the Red Sea Project, which is opening next in 2013 Q1. 3 hotels are opening up. The Ritz-Carlton Reserve, the Six Senses, St. Regis. And that honestly, I think that's going to be a testament to how committed we are to regenerative tourism.
Well, let's talk about that, because we talked about sustainable tourism, but you are launching in tourism in a sustainable fashion, and that seems, after COVID, it seems to be the way everyone wants to go. Virtuoso is very much focused on that. I know you've talked to Matthew Upchurch, CEO of Virtuoso, about this, and you are now very much focused in developing in a sustainable way, right?
Absolutely. I think it comes with a big ticket item, but we're committed to it because we believe that it would be rewarding. So regenerative tourism, committing 70% of our land for conservation and rewilding 21 species, starting with Arabian leopard, starting with communities, residents before tourists, developing villages and preserving them to keep the authentic experiences for travelers, but even more importantly, disseminate wealth and opportunity to these rural areas and make sure that the locals get the benefit first.
Absolutely. Well, that's the way to go. Is there anything else you want to tell our 106,000 travel advisors out there about Saudi today and what, how they should view it?
I say you must try Saudi because it will surprise you and delight you. And for there's so many women that approached me. I say I'm a father of two, so I am two girls. So I'm a positive discriminator towards women. Saudi is the home of the safest city in the world for women after midnight. So people that ask me, is it safe? I think the question is it the safest in the world? Because that's where our competition is.
Absolutely. Well, that is a concern of people, but I think they don't have to be concerned of that. They have to discover that it is a place that's amazing, got a lot of interesting things that really have not been available to most travelers and American travelers. And now, where can travel advisors go to learn more about Saudi and Saudi tourism?
I can easily refer you to visit Saudi.com or the Saudi Tourism Authority team. We have 25 international lines. We have American, US-based lines to answer any questions. We receive around 9,000 calls internationally every month. People are curious, and we're an STA, the Saudi Tourism Authority, is there to guarantee the experience for these travel advisors.
Absolutely. Well, Fahad, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me about Saudi today. It's a fascinating destination, one I'm eager to see, and one it looks like I'm going to see in November. And I think they're going to give me a little tour and see some of the other things, not just go to a meeting and come back, which is not the purpose of this visit. WTTC is great, but seeing Saudi is going to be much better.
Definitely. I assure you, you will get that. And thank you, James, for the time and having me with you.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.